To all you heathens of dark psychology, my light shall rise upon you, even as the sun consumes the night. For years a doctrine has spread across the internet, like a slow-moving shadow. A doctrine that promises power. Doctrine that claims to reveal the hidden rules of human nature. A doctrine that teaches you to look at every conversation as a negotiation, every kindness as a tactic, and every relationship as a battlefield. They called it dark psychology. And for a time, it flourished. Its prophets spoke with confidence. Its followers sharpened their minds like blades. Its ideas spread through millions of conversations, forums, videos, and books. Everywhere the same lesson was repeated. Trust no one. Reveal nothing. Control everything. And to many who discovered it, this philosophy felt like revelation. At last, a map. At last, an explanation for the betrayals of the world. At last, a system that promised protection against manipulation. Every philosophy must eventually face the same test. Not the test of popularity. Not the test of cleverness. The test of results. And when dark psychology is measured by its results, its weakness becomes impossible to ignore. Because a mind trained only for manipulation cannot create loyalty. It cannot create trust. And it cannot create the kind of authority that survives beyond a single moment of control. Manipulation may win a conversation, but it loses the war for influence. Every time. History has seen this pattern before. Entire empires have been built on deception, calculation, and strategic cruelty. They rose quickly. They appeared unstoppable. Their architects believed they had mastered the mechanics of power itself. But every empire built on manipulation eventually faces the same fate. It collapses the moment people realize they are being ruled by minds that cannot be trusted. The manipulator believes he understands power, but what he truly understands is short-term leverage. And leverage is not the same thing as strength. A lever can move a stone, but it cannot build a kingdom. Dark psychology produces individuals who are extremely skilled at reading weakness, but strangely incapable of inspiring strength. And that contradiction reveals the flaw at the heart of the doctrine, because real power has never belonged to the one who sees everyone else as a tool. Real power belongs to the one who cannot be reduced to a tool himself. The manipulator depends on secrecy. Manipulator depends on confusion. The manipulator depends on people who are uncertain about their own principles. Remove those conditions, and the entire system begins to fracture. Which brings us to the philosophy that dark psychology has spent years trying to ignore. A philosophy older than any internet doctrine, older than any manipulation manual. Philosophy that does not teach control. It teaches character. This philosophy does not train you to read weakness. It trains you to become someone whose presence eliminates weakness. This philosophy does not encourage suspicion. It encourages clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what you stand for. Clarity about the lines you will never cross. This philosophy is what we call light psychology. And before you dismiss that phrase as naive, consider a question that the dark psychology world rarely asks. Why do certain individuals command loyalty, even in the most brutal conditions imaginable? Why did soldiers follow certain leaders into battles they knew they might not survive? Why did entire movements form around individuals who never relied on manipulation at all? History records many names that illustrate this phenomenon. Men who possessed authority so powerful that manipulation became unnecessary. Consider Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled one of the most powerful empires in human history. He did not build his authority through manipulation manuals. He built it through discipline, clarity, and an internal code so stable that even his enemies respected it. Or consider Abraham Lincoln, a leader who navigated one of the most violent political crises in history. He faced deception, conspiracy, and relentless opposition. Yet the authority he established was not the authority of manipulation. It was the authority of moral gravity, the kind that bends events toward it. Dark psychology rarely studies figures like these, because they expose the doctrine's greatest flaw. The manipulators believe power comes from controlling others. The greatest leaders in history prove the opposite. Power comes from self-mastery so complete that manipulation becomes irrelevant. This is the principle that light psychology restores. The principle that strength begins with internal order. A man who cannot control his impulses cannot control his destiny. A man who must constantly manipulate others has already revealed his own insecurity, because the truly dangerous individual is not the one who understands manipulation. The truly dangerous individual is the one who cannot be manipulated at all, and such a person cannot be manipulated for a simple reason. Their values are fixed. Their code is visible. Their character is consistent. Dark psychology teaches you to keep everyone guessing. Light psychology removes the need for guessing entirely. It replaces uncertainty with presence. And presence has a strange effect on manipulative minds. Retreat from it. Because manipulation requires ambiguity. It requires shifting ground. It requires people who are unsure of themselves. But the moment someone enters the room with a clearly defined character, the manipulator loses his advantage. His tricks cannot move someone who stands on solid ground. This is why the doctrine of dark psychology has always feared the return of stronger philosophies, not softer philosophies, stronger ones, philosophies that demand discipline, philosophies that demand integrity, philosophies that demand that an individual become something far more difficult than a strategist, a leader. And leadership cannot be manufactured through manipulation. It must be forged through character. This is the dividing line between the two systems. Dark psychology creates individuals who are constantly calculating. Light psychology creates individuals who are constantly building. Dark psychology produces suspicious minds that expect betrayal everywhere. Light psychology produces stable minds that make betrayal irrelevant. One system teaches you to survive a hostile world. The other teaches you to reshape that world through the force of your character. The difference between these two outcomes is not subtle. It is enormous. One path leads to endless strategy. The other leads to lasting authority. And when history is examined carefully, it becomes clear which path ultimately prevails. The manipulators appear powerful in the short term, but their influence fades quickly. The individuals who build their authority on discipline and clarity, their influence often outlives them. That is the difference between leverage and legacy. And legacy has always belonged to those who carried something stronger than tactics. They carried principles. Principles that could withstand pressure. Principles that could survive betrayal. Principles that did not shift with circumstance. This is the foundation of light psychology. Not softness, not passivity, but unbreakable internal structure. The kind that turns a human being into something far more formidable than a strategist. It turns them into a force that reshapes environments simply by existing within them. The manipulators sense this immediately, because for all their calculations, they recognize a mind they cannot move, and that recognition creates something very unusual in the world of dark psychology. Respect, even if it is never spoken aloud. So the next time someone presents manipulation as the highest form of intelligence, remember the pattern history has repeated for centuries. The manipulators may win temporary advantages, but the individuals who build themselves on discipline and clarity, those individuals eventually control the direction of entire eras. Dark psychology had its moment. Its ideas spread quickly. Its tactics fascinated millions. But fascination is not the same thing as permanence, and permanence belongs to those who master themselves first. It is the path light psychology restores, not as a comforting alternative, but as the stronger doctrine, the one that does not collapse when examined, the one that does not require secrecy to function, the one that produces individuals whose presence alone ends the conversation about manipulation. Because the moment someone becomes truly unshakable, games of dark psychology lose their purpose entirely. And that moment is the moment the doctrine begins to collapse. The darkness built its system on suspicion. The light builds its system on strength. And strength has always outlasted shadow. The question now is simple. Which doctrine will shape the mind that walks forward from here? The one built on tricks, or the one built on character? The answer to that question determines far more than a single conversation. It determines who holds influence in the years ahead. And history has already shown which philosophy wins that war. The manipulators believe the future belongs to strategy. The future has always belonged to something far more dangerous. People who cannot be moved. And once enough minds become that stable, the age of manipulation ends on its own. Not through argument, through irrelevance. The darkness fades, because the light no longer needs to fight it. It simply outlasts it.